super excited to have with me today Louis de Clap, who is lead capture reality at Zutari. Now, they have brought the latest technology into the country, and this is really an incredible game changer for them, I think, and also for the construction industry. We're not even talking about the money saving, but the accuracy of this technology is just phenomenal. So welcome, Louis. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
And tell us a little bit about all of this tech. I mean, you've got the fantastic Leica. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's quite an exciting time for us. So we've been on this journey over the past 18 months to find new tools to bring into the business, something that will disrupt the market, something that will set us apart from the rest of the companies, and just bring something that gives us an edge. And we've been shopping around with this LiDAR scanners, and then specifically the SLAM scanners, which is basically a mobile scanner. So you normally have the terrestrial scanners that's stationary, they stand on a tripod. And after a lot of shopping around and a lot of testing, we eventually bought the BLK2GO, which is made by Leica Geosystems. And we're very excited about it. It's quite an investment for us, but for us it's a game changer, and we are very excited about this technology. And I can quickly show you what it looks like on a little picture here.
That would be fantastic. Yes, please. And if I'm not mistaken, this is only one of two of these in the country. Am I correct?
Yeah, so we brought in the second one into the country. At the moment, there is one other one that is being used. So we brought in the second one. So it's really not something that everybody has. It's not something that everybody has access to. And that's the little machine you'll see on the screen now. It's actually quite small. So if you think of a little coffee can, it's about the size of that, or one of your little hand flasks that you can carry with you when you take your coffee in the car.
Yeah.
It's the same size as that, so it's very portable, very lightweight. And that's basically what it looks like. It's very futuristic. So that's our actual unit. That photo was taken in our office, so it's not a marketing photo. It's our actual unit. You can.
Great photography, by the way.
It's nicely done. So if I can tell you a bit more about the scanner,
yes, please do.
All right, so the scanner, so how does it work and what does it do? And not wanting to just read off the screen, but for those watching can actually run through that, read through that on their own if they want. But basically, it's used to scan spaces while you walk around. So if you walk into a room, it's a few seconds up to a minute to scan a standard room. It's quite quick. You can scan multiple places without stopping. So you can scan an entire house. You can scan an entire building, an entire basement, whatever you're busy looking at. You can do that. It's basically in this dome at the top. It's got the LiDAR unit that spins around, and that shoots out the points that then does the measurement. And if you look at this specific scanner, what sets it apart from some of the others, Leica calls it Grand Slam. And the Grand Slam basically uses the LiDAR unit, and it uses cameras around the device. So it's got 4 cameras, 3 of them that's constantly recording. And combining that with an IMU, it then builds this Grand Slam. So it uses the visual as well as the LiDAR unit to actually navigate and to build a picture as you go along. So that's kind of different from some of the other scanners that we've looked at. And for those of you that don't know what SLAM means, simultaneous localization and mapping. And it's basically just a terminology in the industry they use for this. But basically what it does is as you walk around, it calculates positions, it calculates the space, and it measures the space, and it captures the information in layman's terms. So if you look at specifications for this device and getting the nitty-gritty stuff out of the way, and we can talk more about the actual uses and so on. It literally has one button on the device, so anybody can use it. It's not something where you need a weeks-long training course to actually understand how to switch on this machine. You can connect it to your device, and it actually, in real time, as you walk, it builds the model of the area where you walk around, and you can actually ensure that you've captured everything, that you haven't missed anything, that it's working and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Like I said, in the dome at the top, it's got the LiDAR units that spin, and it shoots out, this specific model shoots out 420,000 points a second. So that's quite a lot. If you look at your terrestrial scanners that stand on tripods, some of them go up to 1 million or 2 million, but obviously they're quite a bit bigger, and they're heavy machines. So this is, again, lightweight, portable. It's got another fourth camera where you can take high detail photos. So if you're walking and there's something that's got some information on it, or serial number, or something that you need to have as part of your information set, you can actually just press the same button you switched it on with, and it takes a high detail photo. Accuracy is something they ask us about quite a lot, and being a mobile device that you actually walk around with, so it needs to calculate its own position the whole time, and obviously one doesn't always hold it up exactly straight, so it takes all of that into consideration. We're looking about 15 to 20 millimeters of accuracy. I mean, if you any other way of measurement, you're not going to get much better than that. And it picks up about 25-meter radius range around it. So, a standard room you can, almost capture from one point. Yeah, and then the software that comes with it, quite easy to use. And what the great thing is, it exports all the formats to all of our other software packages. So the integration into everything else we do is just plain amazing. And that's the short introduction to the the scanner and what it actually looks like. So I hope that painted the picture a bit more than just some words.
Yeah, I must say, I think seeing it visually makes such a big difference, and also the size of it. It reminds me of, like you say, those little portable espresso maker coffee machines. I mean, it's like something that can just go everywhere. Yes. So we talked a little bit in the beginning, and one of the things that you mentioned as well is around the surveying isn't necessarily, it's guesstimated, right? So these statistics are guesstimated, where now you can actually have the measurements done quite accurately compared to how you would do it otherwise. So what sort of cost saving are we looking at roughly?
It's interesting. So cost saving, it's not necessarily a direct cost saving. It might actually, at that point, maybe cost you the same. So it's not necessarily cheaper. The big benefit is, a lot of times we don't actually have any information. So like I said, there's a lot of guesstimating, and you start a project, or you even do a proposal, but you start a project and you guess information about what is the size of this, how much, what's the dimensional size, what is the furniture, what's the layout, where's all the infrastructure, the rest of the infrastructure, pumps or whatever it can be. And based on that, you've got this plan and you've got a budget. And at the end, somewhere during the project, you realize, but this was not 4,000 squares, it's actually 7,000 squares. And there's a lot of information that then comes to light, and it changes the price. And all of a sudden, a planned project becomes a lot more expensive. Where this now allows us to, at the start of the project, actually get accurate information, which means we can fine-tune that whole planning process going forward. And that's where the cost saving comes in the long run. If you look at cost saving for us as well, we've got engineers visiting projects, and they go to meet with the client, and they go see the infrastructure or the building or whatever it is they need to see. And then again, normally they maybe take some photos, or they'll do some measurements, or whatever they can get at that during that visit, which might be an hour on site. And they come back, and from that they need to work. Now, an engineer on his way out to the door, we can give him the scanner. If he hasn't used it before, I can give him a 10-minute crash course in how to operate it. They go out to site, and while they're there talking to the client, they say, you know what, let's quickly just walk through. Or while they're actually walking through the facility, they walk with the scanner and they come back. We process the data, and all of a sudden the whole team can do a virtual site visit. They can take measurements of everything that was there. They can do calculations on what furniture is there. And that's where the cost saving comes in. So it's de-risking the process to a certain degree for us. And that's one of the big wins. One of the other the kind of scenarios where it comes to cost saving and de-risking as well. If you look at with the COVID pandemic now, health infrastructure, for instance, you've got to do an upgrade at a hospital to maybe, for whatever reason, to see if you can fit more beds and things like that. So you're sitting in a sensitive environment where normally, again, you would have to send in a person that will spend a significant amount of time in that facility to measure up and to write down how many beds are there and how many pedestals and all of these different things. Now a person can scan a hospital room in 1 minute. So your exposure risk is there, being an inconvenience to the people trying to work is a lot less. And that's where the things come in, is the cost saving there. It's a rapid data acquisition, and so it's less time on site and a lot better information. And I think that's one of the real benefits for us at the moment.
I think you touch on 3 super important things in today's day and age: data, resource management, and cost. And I think that this just kind of, it just floats to the top in terms of what's important in saving and being accurate with the data that you get. Tell me a little bit more. So this is for use, I presume, from what you're telling. You can literally use this in practically any scenario. So from a big hospital right down to a room. So the uses are just multitudinal on this type of product.
Exactly, yeah. So I mean, we recently did a 45,000. Well, not we. I recently did as part of the testing process and trial running it and so on. We did a 45,000 square meter industrial factory environment in 6 hours. We was on site for 6 hours, and we captured that whole facility. So we've got now, so I mean, obviously this thing goes through a process. So this is the data collection part where you get, if you're in the industry, the point cloud information and our panoramic images. And all of a sudden we know exactly what are the dimensions of the rooms, where are they, how do they interconnect, where's all the ducting that was visible. So what one must remember with this kind of device, it can also only capture what it can see. It's not an X-ray machine, it doesn't see through ceilings. So, if there's something hidden behind the ceiling, obviously we can't see it. But 45,000 squares in 6 hours. And that's the real benefit. To do that with what was the conventional way to do this? The other way is a person with a tape measure and a piece of paper to measure it up. Or if you are a bit more advanced, you've got one of these laser disto meters that you put against the wall and shoot the laser, which is more accurate than a tape measure, but still think about measuring that place up using that and the complications of things being in the way. Or the other edge of that was sending in the terrestrial scanners, and that would take, on a facility like that, you are talking about, I think we've got a recent estimate, it's about 25 days on site to actually capture it. So obviously you'll have higher accuracy doing that. But then again, using the SLAM technology with the scanners, we capture that in 6 hours, and then we say, okay, we want to, in room X, Y, and Z, needs upgrading. So send in the terrestrial scanner to just go scan that. So the surveyor goes, they just captured that part, which we then replace in the data set, and you've got actually the full model or full information, but in certain areas, higher information or higher detail or better accuracy. Because those do go down to like 3 millimeter accuracy, if you from our 15, 20 millimeters.
Okay. So you're into the technology. Any other technology that you are very excited about or interested in that you think is possibly a game changer for the built environment, or something, or an opportunity that's there in terms of technology?
It's actually a loaded question. There's so many spaces of technology. I'm quite passionate about drones as well, and what the drones have been doing in industry. And yes, they're not new, but every day there's new applications. There's new things we can do with them, and they're disrupting the market as well in their own space. So we also a drone operator licensed through CAA, so that's one of our other things we do. And I think it's difficult. One of those questions is sometimes people also look at this and they think, you know what, that technology financially it's out of reach. I can't afford it. I'm a smaller company, or I'm a one-man show. And even just we've played with 360 degree cameras, where you've got pano cameras in a facility where you take photos on the same point using a software package, and comparing that with the actual design, being able to stand on a site and have the photo on one side and the design on the other side with the live view from the camera, and actually seeing, is this thing in the right place? then there's the whole thing about smart building management, which you look at that side when you've got an asset. I mean, a lot of times the engineers are focused at the start of the project or the start of that asset life cycle. So we want to design it and we want to build it, and it stops. And that's the first 5 years of the asset. Now it needs to work for another 100 years or another 20 or 30 or 40 years. And moving into that space, how do we bring the technology into that side of things? And it starts tying in with Internet of Things. Where do we use what sensors? And doing measuring trends, doing predictions, and then you playing back into saving cost, optimizing the use of the building. And then the big one that is the term that's being thrown around in the industry, and it takes on so many forms, is the actual digital twin. And I think that's something we are working towards as well on various platforms with linear infrastructure as well as in the building space. What does a digital twin look like for which entity or for which kind of asset or which kind of infrastructure? And yeah, so we're busy unpacking that, and we're working towards that as well. And although we haven't, it's a difficult market to crack because a lot of people see digital twins as this CSI kind of image of a hologram, and you pull the building apart and you touch it in mid-air and things just open up. And that's not really what it is. It can be a 2D image, it can be a portal, a dashboard, it could be a 3D model linked to information. So yeah, I think for us the big thing is it's the technology is exciting and it's fun to play with, but we're really chasing how do we maximize the use of the data, because that is the big thing at the moment. It doesn't just help collecting data and storing it on a server where it's inaccessible or where it's not being used. So that's one of the things. And then I think for us, the whole virtual environment, COVID has pushed us into that space where people can't readily get to places. We need to restrict numbers and restrict travel, and so we're building this virtual environment, being able to virtually visit places, and a combination of these technologies make that possible. So that's yeah.
I think you touch on the digital twin is also very exciting, but like you say, I think that there's still a big misconception around exactly what it is and how to apply it. And I like what you said so much about the data. It's not just about data collection, but what are you actually doing it for? What is the purpose of the data, and how can you leverage it for benefit as opposed to it just being a collection point and just dumping it on a server somewhere? Louis, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. We're very, very excited to see how Zutari is going to deploy the technology, but also very excited to have this technology in South Africa. And thank you for sharing it with us today. And any last parting words from you?
Well, I think for me, one of my big things is, find the place to use technology, but also be cautious. I've got a saying in the company: tech is not always the answer, and one needs to be cautious of just using tech for using tech. Use the right tool for the job. I think that's can be my closing words.
I think those are words of wisdom. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Thank you so much, Louis. And from me, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful week and go make some memories. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you very much.